What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Friday. Easton, it's the last Friday of football season. Oh, man, the Super Bowl is just 2 days away. Chiefs and Eagles will give our official predictions for the only time this week. Sam and I talked about AJ and D-Hop yesterday, but official predictions on the show today. But NFL Honors was last night, and I actually watched more of the NFL Honors show than I ever have before, Easton Freeze.
So did I.
So how about that?
First time I've ever watched the whole thing.
I did not watch the whole thing. I just said more than I ever have before because
Well,
I turned it off.
You can tell I didn't have much else going on yesterday. Just sat around the last night and just watched. I had nothing else to watch. So
yeah.
And it wasn't hosted well. So, there have been times in the past it was hosted way better than that. And I love Snoop Dogg, but yeah,
Look,
the NFL Honors.
Let's not get too. Like, okay,
let's talk. We'll talk more about it. But there's some
because I actually don't agree with that overall. So, but again, I'm not
surprise debate topic this morning.
You're right. All right, so we're gonna have a good conversation today because the Hall of Fame class for 2025 was announced at the NFL Honors last night. There are 4 new members of the Hall of Fame, and I think we all agree that Derrick Henry will at one point join the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yep.
But where and how and how long will it take him? And we'll get an update on Derrick Henry's retirement plans that he offered up last night on the red carpet before NFL Honors as he is approaching his age 31 and a half, 32 season because his birthday's in January. So Derrick Henry continuing to pad out onto his Hall of Fame career. So we're going to have a conversation about that update on his Hall of Fame plans. Then we'll talk about the Hall of Fame class. Easton, you have maybe the biggest problem that you have with the Hall of Fame class that are going to be inducted later on this summer. Then we'll get to our Super Bowl predictions, and it's a Friday, which means we've got good news. Swan says we need more likes. So, Easton, I'll toss it over to you to help us get more likes.
Yeah, Swan's all over it this morning. We do need more likes on the show this morning. We can see how many of you have liked the show, and frankly, it is not enough. So help us out this morning. Hit that like button on Facebook, on YouTube. It is free. It takes 1 click, and then you don't have to think about it ever again. It is the easiest way that you can be a friend of the show this morning. Help us get as many live eyeballs on today's product as humanly possible. We want to get you guys in here to engage in some debate on Derrick Henry, on his comments last night, on the Hall of Fame, on the NFL Honors last night, and then talk about who's going to win this godforsaken Super Bowl matchup. Got a lot to cover today, and we need your help. Like the show, as Bork says, like the show or I lose my job. We're not joking. We bring it up all the time. It is contingent upon my contract. If we don't hit a certain number of likes during the week, my job is in jeopardy. My life, I have a child who I have to feed at home, and your likes determine whether or not I can do that. So
that is not true. That is not true.
That's what a boss who would put that in a contract would say, because it's so ridiculous. They don't want you to realize it. But I'm a whistleblower here at A to Z Sports, and the reality is that is how it works.
That is not in any contract.
It's actually at the top of the contract.
The funniest thing in any A to Z Sports contract is that Buck Rising has in his contract that he must do Instagram questions every week, which is hilarious, but it's also very entertaining as a whole. But anyway, let's get it going officially after you like the show. Welcome into A to Z Sports here live on a Friday. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Easton Freeze, one of our Titan reporters for A to Z Sports.com.
Like the show, save a baby.
Yeah, we are Nashville's on-demand sports network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. And also make sure you do a 5-star Google review. Now, we might add putting 5-star Google reviews in everybody's contracts.
Oh, no.
For that would just boost the Google vision there.
That's
but anyway, getting our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they make everything work for you guys as well. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon, online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Make sure you go to TDOT's campaign to keep our state beautiful. NobodyTrashesTennessee.com to find a solution to end littering across Tennessee. And also our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, but Bart Durham is just one click away online, bartdurham.com. So we'll talk about the Super Bowl predictions. I just see Hill says Eagles win easily by 9. So that's one prediction. We'll talk about our predictions later on. We'll get Easton's biggest problem with the Hall of Fame class of 2025 for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as 4 members were announced to be elected later on this summer. Derrick Henry will be in the Hall of Fame at some point, but not until at least 5 years after he retires. But do we have to talk about Snoop Dogg before we talk about Derrick Henry's retirement plans that he said on the red carpet last night? Because honestly, like, I'm not the biggest Snoop person. Like, I'm not turned off by Snoop. I think he's entertaining. I think there's overexposure with Snoop, obviously, because he even made a joke about that himself to kick things off. I thought he was funny. And I thought I think it was fine. Like, the skits are bad regardless of who's hosting. And the Jelly Roll skit was chalkboard. But
I mean, that was the best part of the thing, like, in terms of comedy. It's always, so you're right that it's always bad. And I tweeted this last night. Part of the one of the more eclectic parts of the NFL honors is that it is a fun, endearing kind of mess, like, every year, because it's a bunch of people that aren't great at the whole show business thing, trying to do the show business thing.
Hey, can you do that teleprompter thing again?
Right. And he actually handled it better than I was afraid he would. I thought he was going to shut down.
It's funny.
But in the moment, you're on the edge of your seat, because you're, unlike the Oscars or some other award show that people don't actually watch. In those, you trust those people to be able to handle the show business of it all. With this, it's like, I'm in the locker room with these guys. I know how they handle, being in front of my iPhone camera when they're in front of a studio camera on a nationally televised thing where they're not wearing a helmet and jersey and shoulder pads. I don't know how they're going to perform exactly. And it's always kind of bad, but in an endearing way. Now, it has been hosted way like Snoop. Snoop kind of got a little bit of an unk status last night. I don't know. I have seen much better host jobs by, Keegan-Michael Key has hosted a couple times. He's an actual, comedian. So that goes over well. Like, Snoop is good at hosting. The problem is they want a comedian host for this. And they tried to make Snoop a comedian last night. And
I thought his initial roast was hilarious. I thought it was great.
No, it's weird. Like, he opens with like the Eagles versus the refs, and everybody was groans, and it's like it's all these like very lowbrow, poorly delivered jokes.
Snoop can get away with those things because he's Snoop Dogg. Like, Snoop can make every weed joke possible because he's Snoop, and like other people can't do. Look, I'm not saying it. I was rolling over. There was a couple things that I chuckled at. It was whatever. I mean, I'm not saying Snoop was the best host ever. I thought there was a couple one-liners and a couple roasts that he had that made people go, "Oh man!" Like, Joe Burrow's here. Joe's invited to the cookout, but also, how about that terrible ass defense? And Joe's just like, okay, like,
bring back Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey's the best NFL honors host there's ever been.
All right. Anyway. Okay, so let's get to the Derrick Henry side of this thing, because Derrick Henry was on the red carpet talking to Diana Rossini before the NFL honors, and this tweet made the rounds, and it's continuing to make the rounds. Easton, you wrote about it on A2ZSports.com, and it's Diana Rossini just spoke with Derrick Henry on the red carpet at NFL honors about his future. The 31-year-old All-Pro tells me he wants to finish his career in Baltimore. Quote, "I want to retire a Raven." Dun, dun, dun. That I'm curious of how people took this.
Oh, I know how they took it.
So, like, do you take it as Derrick Henry wants to go out and retire and be known as a Baltimore Raven? Or do you take it as Derrick Henry doesn't want to play for a third team in his NFL career and wants to finish his career with the Baltimore Ravens? I think there's A or B. And so if you guys want to put A or B in the chat, A is he wants to be known as a Baltimore Raven as he retires, or B, he just doesn't want to play for a third team and wants to finish this thing out as a Baltimore Raven with the Baltimore Ravens. A or B. A being doomsday scenario for Titans. B being he's just trying to finish his NFL career the best way he possibly can. So I'm curious to see what the split is, A or B. And And in Easton, right now I have not seen a single A in the chat yet.
Me neither.
This is great.
Good.
This is good. This is good. Oh, there's Drayden. Drayden had to
Drayden.
ruin it. Drayden Roop. And of course,
Lou Man.
Lou Man doesn't count.
He's very
Lou
mad
Man
at us for doing premieres on YouTube and not doing
but
live shows. Get over it, Lou Man.
Timothy is also an A, but I'll put up a poll real quick, A or B, and I'll see if I can do that. But Easton, as I'm setting up the polls here on YouTube, a lot of B answers, which is he just wants to not play for a third team in his NFL career and go out with the Ravens, right?
Yeah, which is what he almost certainly means, right? Now, Bama Brad comments, and I think he was giving me a hard time about this on Twitter last night, too. You guys are making people take it this way with your nonsense. Not us. Be mad at Diana Rossini because she's the one that put an intentionally inflammatory single, no context quote in her tweet. Quote, I want to retire as a Raven. She knew what she was doing. She did it on purpose. She did it so that, people would react this way. So like we are not the way, and the reason we're talking about it, Bama Brad, is because people saw that they immediately reacted poorly on the internet, and then I wrote an article about how people need to relax, and now we're on the show this morning talking about how people need to relax because the reality is, yes, Derrick Henry is saying he does not want to play for a third team, and he is about to enter the second of his 2-year contract in Baltimore. After which he'll be a free agent. He's 31 years old. He'll be 32 at the end of this next contract. He, doesn't want to go play for another team. He does not want to become a journeyman. He wants to finish as a Baltimore Raven. That's what he was talking to Diana about. And he at his age, one would imagine the cliff is coming. But with Derrick Henry, he has not shown any signs of slowing down. So, how much longer he can play, I don't know whether or not that's, 2 or 3 more years with the Ravens, or if he's going to have kind of like an 8. I think he's physically capable of like an Adrian Peterson end of career where he plays for another 8 years and it just gets sadder every year. But I don't get the sense that Derrick Henry necessarily wants to do that. You know what I mean? I don't know if he wants to be, suiting up for the Titans like Adrian Peterson was at, 37 years old and it's your 16th team and you're, it's like the shell of the ghost of Derrick Henry playing for the Cardinals in 2029. Like, I don't think that's the plan that he has for himself. So now if you were to actually retire a Raven, maybe we can talk about what that would entail. And people are like, what do you mean by retire Raven? We're talking about the press release, the press conference, the photo shoot at the stadium and in the locker room, the picture with the owner and the GM and him thanking everybody in the Ravens organization and all the clips going around on Good Morning Football the next morning, the whole song and dance that star veterans get to do when they finally hang him up for the last time.
Like the Jarrell Casey, right?
Yeah.
He was traded
an even bigger deal, right? For like a
5
Derrick
games
Henry
for the Broncos and then came back a year later and says, I hit the 1-day contract, had the press conference, hold up the jersey and go out, right? The moment Delaney Walker had that type of moment too. Even Alteron Werner, which was the strangest 1-day contract situation that I've seen with the Titans. But yeah, I don't think I don't think Derrick Henry is wanting to retire a Raven. And here's the other thing too that I think people confuse and get swapped up on. In the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame, you retire as a member of a certain organization.
Mm-hmm.
In the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you do not retire as a member of a certain organization. Now, obviously, we know you as so-and-so. We know you as the team that you're most known for, but you do not like Derrick Henry doesn't have to pick pick or choose a Titan or Raven as he's going into the NFL Hall of Fame. So I think that is, important to know there. So I did put up the YouTube poll. Derrick Henry's want to retire a Raven quote: A, retire and known as a Raven, or B, doesn't want to play on a third team. Currently, thank goodness, 86% of the votes are B, he doesn't want to play on a third team and be journeyman running back like Adrian Peterson was. So
right.
That is the way I took it. I think the importance of that is he's got 1 year left on his contract in Baltimore. Obviously, he's very good still. And does he want to continue playing after next season? What does that look like? Do the Ravens want him? And look, the odd. What are the odds, Easton? Okay, let me rephrase. What percentage chance, Easton, do you think Derrick Henry will play on a third team?
Oh, I think it's higher than Derek wants it to be because
Oh,
again,
well, yeah, of course.
I would say, I mean, I would say 50% chance, maybe a little bit, maybe 55. I'd say slightly better than not that he ends up playing for a different team. So 51% chance, just because again, he's about to finish out the second year of a 2-year contract with Baltimore. He's going to be a 32-year-old running back, and teams are once again, it's like the stakes keep getting higher and higher on. It's like, have you ever played, this is a weird reference. You ever played the child's game where it's a plastic crocodile and you open its mouth and it's got all the teeth and it's basically Russian roulette. You take turns pressing down the teeth until one makes the crocodile's mouth chomp down on you and you lose the game. Do you even know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. I'm sure many people, if you're in the chat, help me out if you know what I'm talking about. It's very basic premise. No, it's literally a plastic crocodile that has all these teeth. And you go around Russian roulette style. You take turn pressing down teeth, and one of the teeth makes the crocodile chomp on your hand, and you lose.
It's kind of like crocodile Jenga.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah, some folks in the chat know what I'm talking about. That's what teams are going to be playing with the Derrick Henry, because the juxtaposition of a 32-year-old running back who feels like a ticking time bomb, and he's got running back tread on his tires. But he just put up over 2,000 yards of 2,000 all-purpose yards from scrimmage. He had over 20 touchdowns from scrimmage, I believe. He had his highest efficiency season, 5.9 yards per carry this year for a good team, but still, not everybody can do that. Somebody's going to pay him. And I don't know if it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens based on their Super Bowl window, their team building cycle. Like after this next year, who are they going to have on contract still? Who are they going to be moving on from? Are they going to be trying to get younger? Are they going to try to retool around Lamar Jackson? Kind of like how we saw the Bills do with Josh Allen this year, where, they're not out of the window, but the way that they're handling their offseason is not an all-in kind of deal. It's a long-term sustained build. I don't know if signing a Derrick Henry to the Ravens after this year at 32 years old is a long-term sustained build. So, but then he's going to have to decide, do I want to play for a third team or do I want to hang it up? Because I don't think Derrick Henry will retire after next year. But if the Ravens are not interested in signing him back, and his options are minimal, and he's already a Hall of Famer, the only thing I guess he has left to play for is a ring, and that's kind of what he went to the Ravens to do in the first place.
And I think that's what he's
Derrick Henry, Chiefs running back, 2027.
Oh God, no. I'm just laughing at people in the chat that are taking Easton's crocodile teeth game and being like, hungry hippos. No, like the hippos and crocodiles are very different animals, and that's a very different game. The opposite of each other. So, and apparently it's called Crocodile Dentist.
Okay. My point of that is saying that eventually some team's going to sign Derrick Henry and the cliff will come, and they will be the ones that got chomped on by the crocodile in Crocodile Dentist. Good game, by the way. Fun game. Yeah. It's nerve-wracking. You get down to the last couple teeth. Which one am I going to choose?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So, yeah, I do think Derrick Henry will play for a third team. That's just where the odds are. But he wants to retire with the Baltimore Ravens. And so Diana Rossini's tweet that is going round and round and round, I want to retire a Raven, I believe is Derrick Henry saying, I don't want to have to go play journeyman running back across the NFL, ring chasing his way until he's in his mid-30s. So let's ask this question, though, Easton, because 4 players were inducted will be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this summer. Eli Manning was not one of them, so he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's a couple others that were not first ballot Hall of Famers, like Luke Kuechly and Marshall Yanda. There are some of the names there. Terrell Suggs that are these snubs. Adam Vinatieri. Kickers, that's a different conversation. Should a kicker be a first ballot guy?
We're gonna talk about it.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's ask this about Derrick Henry. How long will it take Derrick Henry to be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Now, we know that after your retirement, you have to wait 5 years before you're eligible to be on that first ballot. So how long will it take Derrick Henry to to be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, Swan is just in here commenting with a clown emoji. For what? I don't know. But he's done that like 4 times. So I just wanted to acknowledge it just based on who he's calling clowns. So
he's so much not a fan of the show that he continues to tune into the show and comment on the show, which we appreciate.
Luckily, as the comments roll in, I'm going to end the poll because 83% of people are thinking that Derrick Henry just wants to not play on a third team rather than being known as a Raven. So that's good to know. So how long will it take Derrick Henry to be inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame after his retirement? We'll get to your answers here in a moment. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin is the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you got to know who you can turn to, who you can trust, and that is the Bone and Joint Institute. Right there off of I-65 and Highway 96. Boneandjointtn.org is their website to book an appointment online when you need them. They've got all the experts with their doctors, their support staff, their resources, their equipment, their surgery center, their rehab facility right there on campus to make it so convenient for you and to get in and deal with that injury and not let that thing linger throughout your year. So I've used the Bone and Joint Institute a few different times with different injuries over the years. It's a state-of-the-art facility right there in Franklin, as I mentioned, right next to Williamson Medical Center for more convenience as well. So check them out online when you need them, boneandjointtn.org.
Hey, by the way, help us out this morning by subscribing to the YouTube channel. We need as many subscriptions as possible. We are now over the 20,000 mark, which is very cool, which means we are on the road to 30,000. And much to the dismay of Lou Man, but to the pleasure of everybody else, we've got a lot of fun things that will be live and premiering on our YouTube channel from now to the draft. A lot of shorts, a lot of short form videos, some long form videos, some interviews with some people in the industry that, friends of mine that I'm going to get connected with at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine, over Zoom, some fun conversations about the Titans' first overall pick. It's going to be good stuff. And we need you to be subscribed over there on YouTube and then maybe hit that bell, the notification, so that you know whenever we've got stuff going and you can check it out as soon as it's up. So subscribe to the A to Z Sports YouTube channel.
All right, so Easton, we're asking the question, how long will it take Derrick Henry to be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame after his retirement? Diana Rossini saying that he wants to retire a Raven. We've talked through that situation. So I'll try to put up another poll with 4 different options. Obviously, I think there are options are first ballot. Then what do you get? 15 years to be on
to be a modern era finalist.
Modern ballot, yes. Mm-hmm. And then after the 15 years is up, it goes into
a senior committee.
Committee.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the inductees last night was the senior committee. That was Sterling Sharp, Shannon Sharp's brother.
Right. So let's just say the 4 options are roughly first ballot, first half of the 15-year window, back half of the 15-year window, and then senior, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about
as good as you're going to do in terms of
4 options. That's it,
yeah.
Right? So I'll send you to the chat and let you read off what people are saying on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. How long will it take Derrick Henry? Which you guys can get more nuance in the chat, but for the poll, I got to limit it to 4 options. So Easton, what are you seeing from people?
I am seeing Lou Man says it's going to take 7 years exactly, which I respect that the preciseness of this answer. First ballot says Eric, as does other Eric, as does Greg. Year 2 says Jeff. Jason says first ballot. Darius says first ballot. A lot of first ballots in here. Daniel says first ballot. Don says first ballot. First ballot. First ballot. Orlando, 6 to 7 years. Mike Chaffin says it'll be 3rd cycle that he gets in there. The king is first ballot, according to Matt. 7 years from Joel Morris. Something about 7 years. We'll think it's going to be 7 years for him. So 12 years after he eventually retires. Let's see. I mean, an overwhelming number of first ballot. I'm seeing all first ballots and then a handful of people saying like exactly 7 years, which I don't know why, but I would say 85% of the pollees here think that he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Austin, do you?
I doubt it.
Care to elaborate?
I'm trying to, I would need to do a quick Google search. Like, who are the first ballot in a Pro Football Hall of Famers, right?
It is basically guys that were arguably the best to ever play their position, and that's it.
So I'm pulling up that list now. First ballot, Pro Football
Which I
Hall of
respect,
Fame.
by the way. I do like the fact that I do think not watering down, like while there are some guys that I would put in first ballot that we can talk about, that like to me, if you are inarguably top 3, top 5 at your position all time, I think there's an argument for you to be first ballot. But the committee clearly, their history, their track record dictates that unless they think you are maybe the best to ever do it, then you are going to have to wait just from a distinction standpoint.
So I'm on a website called futurefootballlegends.com.
Oh.
First ballot Pro Football Hall of Famers, some data on this. Over half of the list, the top 100 legends were enshrined in the first ballot, including the entire top 20. And, that's
Makes sense.
just their top 100 legends. How about this, though?
Well, no, that's from I think that's from, because remember in 2019 when they had the 100th anniversary, there was an NFL committee that released the official 100 players of the 100 or whatever.
Maybe. I mean, it says
because
I don't know.
okay, but speaking to, I know this is a thing that the committee thinks about, because speaking to Paul Kaharski, who's one of the 50 voters for the modern era committee, they, Adam Vinatieri, for example, was one of the guys that was on the 100 greatest players of the first 100 years of the NFL. That was a committee. I think like Bill Belichick headed up that committee. It was like a bunch of NFL historians that put that together and put a lot of work into it. And he was talking about on his podcast the other day how like Vinatieri's a lock to get in because every single one of the guys on that list that has ever come up for a ballot has eventually gotten in for obvious reasons. So they think about that kind of thing.
So I'm going to read through some of the first ballot people, right? But this is interesting. Which positions are most often honored on the first ballot? As you might guess, big name offensive superstars get more attention than others. Just the quarterback and running back positions alone account for 35% of first ballot inductees.
Wow.
So Derrick Henry has that going for him.
True.
A touchdown scorer, a yards maker, a face, and a record setter, obviously, in spots for being a first ballot guy. So here are the most recent first ballot. I'm going to start with the most recent and just go backwards. And the names are insane. Julius Peppers, Joe Thomas, Darrell Revis, Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, Calvin Johnson, Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, Tony Gonzalez, Champ Bailey, Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, Randy Moss, LaDainian Tomlinson, Jason Taylor, Brett Favre, Junior Seau, Walter Jones, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, Larry Allen, Jonathan Ogden, Deion Sanders, Marshall Faulk, Emmitt Smith, Jerry Rice, Bruce Smith, Rod Woodson, Darrell Green, Bruce Matthews, Troy Aikman, Reggie White, Warren Moon, Steve Young, Dan Marino, John Elway, Barry Sanders, Marcus Allen, Jim Kelly, Jackie Slater, Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott. I can't stop because the names are just so ridiculously good. Like, so is Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry one of those guys?
No, he's not. Listen, here's my rationale. It's very simple.
I agree. He's not a first ballot guy.
He will be, I think, year 2 or year 3. Maybe I'm being a little bit hopeful in that regard because I do think he's way up there. And the reason why, if Antonio Gates and Luke Kuechly are not first ballot Hall of Famers, which the past 2 years have demonstrated, apparently they're not, which is crazy to me because those two guys, I will fight to my death. They are both top 5 players at their position all time. No argument. And I'm not sure they're number 5 either. If those guys aren't first ballot guys, Derrick Henry is not. Because as great as Derrick Henry is he inarguably a top 5 running back of all time? Now, listen, the top 5 running backs of all time is a much more crowded room than the top 5 tight ends or inside linebackers of all time, in my opinion. Like it is a hotly contested place to find yourself. But he's not. He's not. Would I argue maybe he's the top 10 running back of all time? I would probably engage. I would have to, do some research, but I would engage in that probably. But the committee just does not. They do not put you first ballot unless you are an all-time player. And I say all-time, all the Hall of Famers are all-time. Unless you are a cut above the rest at your position in terms of Hall of Famers, right? We take all the Hall of Famers at your position, and then we say, who amongst these guys distinguishes themselves out of this group? Those guys are first ballot guys. And I don't think Derrick quite is that. It's the same reason why Eli was never even close to getting in this year, and maybe not next year. Just a quick little note, by the way, next year, Drew Brees is eligible. And you want to talk about a guy that holds all the records? Drew Brees has a ring. Like, they don't typically
Only
historically.
two quarterbacks don't go in the same class.
They only do two quarterbacks if their hand is literally forced. Like if Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are in the same class and you just have to, right? But otherwise they don't do it. So yeah, I don't think Eli gets in next year either. He might wait a little bit.
Jameson says people are enamored with Henry. He's going to be first ballot. Greg says
Committee
breathe
does
it
not
in.
care.
Yeah. So here are
The
other
committee
guys.
are curmudgeons. You have to realize this.
All right.
Paul, it's 50 of those guys.
So I'm just going to list offensive skill players. And I know we're talking to a Titans fan base audience with recency bias of Derrick Henry being still active in the league. But where does Derrick Henry rank among these other offensive skill players? All right. So we have Derrick Henry, Antonio Gates, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith Sr., Fred Taylor, Reggie Wayne. So Derrick Henry, Antonio Gates, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith Sr., Fred Taylor, Reggie Wayne. There are 6 players. Derrick Henry's active. Mm-hmm. 5 of those players were of the 15 finalists, and Antonio Gates is the only one that got in.
Right.
So Torrey Holt, nope. Steve Smith Sr., nope. Fred Taylor, nope. Reggie Wayne, nope. So where does Derrick Henry rank in that group of 6?
He's second, maybe third in that group. He is clearly behind Antonio Gates to me. And again, so far, like if Derrick Henry, Gates,
not first ballot.
Exactly. That's my point. Exactly.
No, yeah, right.
Yeah. No, to be fair to Derrick, like reminder, he had 2,000 all-purpose yards this year. He had his highest efficiency season ever in the NFL in year 31, or in his 31st year of life. So there's a world, if he does that 3 more times, and if he gets a ring, like there are things Derrick Henry could still miraculously do that changes our mind on this, but we're kind of betting on it not being that way, right?
Yeah, he's above Fred Taylor, 100%.
Yes,
above Fred Taylor.
But look at it this way, Austin, in terms of like being a top, like inarguably top 5 of your position. So here's the Hall of Fame monitor from Pro Football Reference, where it's a way to look at all of the Hall of Fame relevant stats in one place, and they have some proprietary algorithm where they like do a score for you. Which the score is not super useful, but it gives you an idea, kind of like a PFF grade, where it's like, I'm not going to take this as gospel, but it's a rough launching point here. So like the highest rate, so the average Hall of Famer score wise is a 107 on their Hall of Fame monitor. The highest score ever is Walter Payton, 214, almost basically 2 Hall of Fame careers in one for Walter Payton. So like the competition for top 5 running back of all time is Walter Payton, Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, LaDainian Tomlinson, O.J. Simpson, Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk. So like you start to get into the Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk, Terrell Davis, Lenny Moore, like Edgerrin James, that area of guys that are all Hall of Famers.
Colorado Buffalo's running back coach, Marshall Faulk.
That's absolutely. You get into that territory. I think you're in the, the Earl Campbell, you're in the Derrick Henry territory there. But when you're in the Walter Payton, Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith territory, LaDainian Tomlinson territory, not quite. And again, maybe Derrick gets there the next couple of years. And I am as big a Derrick Henry as a Hall of Famer proponent you'll ever find. I've been screaming it from the rooftops for 4 years now. After his 2,000-yard season, I stamped my claim, me and many others, I'm sure, here in Nashville. But I made it very clear, this guy is going to be a Hall of Famer. You yell at a wall. So I'm not saying he doesn't belong in. I'm just saying, again, Luke Kuechly might be the greatest football player I've ever seen on tape. Like tape nerds, well, they love to talk about how there is nobody maybe in the history of the sport who put better play on film than Luke Kuechly in terms of consistency, in terms of he was a one-man defense for 8 years. His star burned brilliantly bright and very quickly. But in 8 years, he was a 5-time first-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. He was as incredible as it gets at inside linebacker. No question, top 5 player at the position all time. And the committee was like, nah, he has to wait.
So the last, somebody just asked, it was LaDainian Tomlinson, a first ballot guy. Yes, he was the last first ballot running back, which was the class of 2017. We're coming up on a decade on that. The 2 first ballot running backs closest and the previous to LT were Marshall Faulk in 2011 and Emmitt Smith, the world's all-time leading rusher, in 2010. So you've, in the last 15, 16 classes, You've got 3 first ballot running backs, and there's just not a lot of first ballot guys. And so I don't think Derrick Henry's a first ballot guy. My official vote on the poll went to second ballot through 7th ballot. So
Right.
I think that's the easiest like place to land, because I think he's above Fred Taylor, who was a finalist, a top 15 finalist this year was Fred Taylor. Somebody was like, if you think Fred Taylor is better than Derrick Henry, you're crazy. No, I'm just naming Fred Taylor because he was literally a finalist for the Hall of Fame class this year. So
people in the comments are saying Derrick Henry better than LaDainian Tomlinson is crazy to me.
That's just not the case. Now, here's what Derrick Henry has going for him. His best case for being a first ballot guy.
His career's not over yet.
His career's not over yet, and the competition at his position for that window is not going to be thick.
Right. It's going to be Saquon maybe, but he's going to have to put up a lot more good years, Saquon is, and Christian McCaffrey.
But Saquon's so much younger. Like Saquon's going to be so they're not in the same Hall of Fame window.
Okay, so it's him and Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, everybody else is
or it's the logjam of the Fred Taylors of the world who haven't gotten in yet, and by the time that Derrick Henry's eligible.
Right.
Because on this finalist list, that's the only running back is Fred Taylor.
So I just pulled up the comparison for
and Fred Taylor's 10 years into this thing.
Right.
He's only got 5 years left. So honestly, Fred Taylor's out. by the time Derrick Henry is eligible, Fred Taylor is no longer eligible.
Fred Taylor's probably going to be the Sterling Sharp guy, where once the running back position is like no longer even getting in, in year 18 of his eligibility, the senior committee finally puts him in, and it's a good feel-good story. So just to compare, because again, this is I think a good metric. If we're talking about Henry as a first ballot guy, LaDainian Tomlinson, you said last first ballot guy at the position, right? Mm-hmm. No, that's not true. I was about to say maybe the last first ballot guy so far, but there's been somebody, I think, since then, probably a quarterback.
There's been several first ballot.
Peyton, right? Peyton was first ballot.
I mean, Randy Moss, Urlacher, Ray Lewis, Champ Bailey, Tony Gonzalez, Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, Calvin Johnson, Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, Darrell Rivers.
Those guys are all since LT. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
But so on the Hall of Fame, because again, the actual grade doesn't matter a whole lot, but just to give you an idea, the average Hall of Famer has a score of 107 on this monitor. LaDainian Tomlinson has 136. Derrick Henry, who is a Hall of Famer and whose career is not over yet, has a score of 54. And that's because this score, I think it overweights, first of all, it definitely overweights Pro Bowls, which we don't really care about anymore. But just to compare apples to apples here, LT, 3 first ballot, first team All Pros. Derrick, 1. Both have 5 Pro Bowls. Derrick has been a full-time starter for 6 seasons. LaDainian Tomlinson did it for 10. I know that from talking to Hall of Fame voters, that's a big thing to them for running backs. Did you start for a whole decade in the NFL? Were you a bell cow for? And that's why it's going to be so hard for these running backs these days to get in, because who's a bell cow for 10 years these days? Derrick Mike can do it, but is he going to do 4 more full seasons, or maybe 3 more full seasons now of being a bell cow? To be determined. LaDainian Tomlinson got to past the 13,500 mark in terms of total yards, 13,500. Derrick is sitting at short of 11,500. So he's more than he's 2,200 off. LaDainian Tomlinson had almost 150 touchdowns of all time. Derrick is just over 100. There are levels to this, and Derrick can get to this if he plays really awesome for a couple more years. But right now, he's not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's three really solid seasons away from being the LaDainian Tomlinson. Yeah, right. Yeah. And does he have 3 solid seasons left? Because he's 31 now. And that's,
I think more importantly, is a team willing to give him that opportunity?
And
who's going to make him the bell cow?
Right. Because of how the league changes. So, anyway, so I think 2nd through 7th ballot. So to the poll we go. First ballot. 55% of the votes in the YouTube poll say first ballot, which through all the cases that we've made, you guys just did not listen. But 39%
crazy Titans homerism going on in the chat right now.
Yeah. 39% says second ballot through 7th. Just 5% says 8th through 15th. And then 1% have him on the senior ballot. So I think very interesting overall.
I want Derrick Henry to come out and clarify, I'm going to retire as a Raven. I want to be known as a Raven. Then we rerun the poll and see what it says.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to guess it's slightly different after that.
Yeah. All right, we have a couple other things to get to. Easton, you do have the biggest problem that you've had with the Hall of Fame class that was announced last night. We'll get to that real quick. NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. That is the campaign that TDOT is out there running to be a part of the solution to end littering in our state of Tennessee. You can go to NobodyTrashesTennessee.com to find out how you can get involved, how you can correct some of your maybe bad habits. They may be unintentional, but nobody wants to add to the litter problem. Being a litterer, being known as a litter bug, is just being known, I think, is kind of lazy. So don't be lazy. Just learn how you can fix some of those bad habits and keep our state beautiful to help out your community and other communities near us by going to NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. That's NobodyTrashesTennessee.com.
Hey, by the way, while you guys are here, help us out by leaving a 5-star Google review. As Austin mentioned at the top of the show, it is a fantastic new way of helping A to Z Sports. If you want to be a friend of the program, go over to Google, search A to Z Sports, find the Google entity at the top that is A to Z Sports, and then find the little stars and hit that furthest star to the right. Give us 5 stars. Leave a rating of whatever you want to say. If you want to leave 5 stars and then give us some constructive criticism, that's fine. But the 5th star is what matters the most to us. So hit that 5-star for us. Feedback is a gift. We appreciate that from you guys. As Lou Man in the comments says, all 5 of those stars. Glad he's come around here on the A to Z product. Join Lou Man by leaving us a 5-star Google review.
All right, Easton, what was your biggest problem with the Hall of Fame class that was announced last night at NFL Honors?
So I've already kind of given up the ghost on this, but my general gripe is just, and I don't have an issue with, the 4 guys that got in, just in case people are wondering: Eric Allen, Vikings rushing legend, edge rushing legend. Or excuse me, Jared Allen, Vikings edge rushing Allen.
2 Allens, not related, different position.
Eric Allen, different player. Wait, who did Eric play for? This is clearly before my time.
Washington?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, and he was actually. Oh wait, just kidding. He was the senior guy. This was his 19th year of eligibility. So he was the one that the senior committee pushed through. But he apparently one of the, as the NFL website describes him, one of the most prolific pickers in NFL history.
He had like 50 something
interceptions
in like 7 years or something crazy.
Right. Jets and Eagles, people are saying. Idiots, fair enough. Well before my time, clearly. 19th year of eligibility. Antonio Gates, obviously a travesty that he was not in first ballot, in my opinion, but he's in now, which is good. And then Sterling Sharp. What? Okay, hang on. This is what I don't understand. So maybe it's not 15 years, Austin, because just kidding. I was right the first time. Sterling Sharp is the senior guy. He was in his, I don't even know what year of eligibility. He stopped playing in the 90s. So I guess maybe it's 20 years to be a modern era guy.
It could be.
Because Eric Allen got in his 19th as a modern era guy. But whatever the case, those are the 4: Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, and Sterling Sharp as the senior inductee. Now, I understand the committee's stance on first ballot being this sanctified distinction. You are a cut above the rest of your fellow Hall of Famers. You need to be arguably the best player at your position of all time. I get that. To me, I am pro not watering it down. I am. But I kind of want to water it down just a little bit, because when a guy is inarguably a top 3 or a top 5 player at their position all time, like no question, not in my opinion, but in anybody's opinion, I have a hard time making that guy wait. Maybe if the point is like, well, that guy only has to wait 1 year, fine. But you also play that weird game, right? Whereas if you wait a year, you got to take into consideration who's up next year, right? Because sometimes you're going to come across just an unbelievably stacked Hall of Fame year where 2 first ballot guys retired at the same time, and suddenly they're both up, and it's like, well, now this guy he keeps getting pushed down the ballot and he doesn't deserve to. And so to me, Antonio Gates not getting in last year as a no question top 5 tight end of all time, probably not number 5, was dumb. And I'm glad he got in now, but it was dumb then, it's dumb now. For Luke Kuechly to not get in last night was dumb. And to me, Adam Vinatieri not getting in, I have a little bit of a problem with, because I know, listen, kickers are weird, right? There are only 2 kickers in the Hall of Fame, period. Morton Anderson, who played for he played for like 25 years, from 82 to 2007. Morton Anderson played. And then Jan Stenerud, who's well before my time. He played in the 60s through to the 80s. Stenerud, cool. Those 2 guys are the only ones. Adam Vinatieri is inarguably a top 3 kicker of all time. inarguably. Like people already put Justin Tucker up there, which I wonder how things might change in terms of his narrative. Adam Vinatieri and Morton Anderson, to me, are like, if you look at the Pro Football Hall of Fame monitor here, it bears that out as well. He played for. He also played for 23 years, so he played a very, very long time, very high completion percentage, 3 first-team All-Pros, won 4 rings, by the way, which for kickers, neither here nor there. But listen, in terms of kickers winning rings, he literally won one of those rings. Like he won the game, the Super Bowl game, with a kick. And the biggest thing for me for Vinatieri is you can write a novel recounting the big time kicks he hit. I don't think there's ever been a kicker in NFL history who has had more cumulative pressure on them in big spots to hit kicks. And he was nails when it mattered. The Patriots never lost in a big spot because of Adam Vinatieri. If they did, it was maybe one. The point is you don't ever remember it, because when it came down to them winning a close game, very Chiefs-esque, where it was inevitably the Patriots. They win in the last minute. It was Adam Vinatieri getting it done, man. He's the greatest clutch kicker of all time, in my opinion. And so and I think that I think him and Kuechly both will probably be second-year guys, maybe third-year guys, depending on what the classes look like the next 2 years. But to me, I think those guys deserve consideration for first ballot. I do.
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest gripe is like they only let in 3 modern era. And
I like that part.
But you're just saying that you think Luke Kuechly should have been.
I think it should have been 3. I think they picked the wrong 3. My ballot would have been 3 guys.
Get in? Eric Allen, Jared Allen, or Antonio Gates. Which of the 3 is the wrong one?
I would have inducted Antonio Gates, Luke Kuechly, and Adam Vinatieri last night if it was me picking. Obviously, it's not me picking.
So I guess to me, like there's like you have to have a minimum of 4 new inductees. Sterling Sharp as the senior makes the 4th.
You don't have to make a 4th. They just changed this rule.
I'm literally reading the ProFootballHallOfFame.com release on the 15.
So they do. Okay, so I misheard this yesterday. So they do make you put at least 1 senior in?
No. While there's no set number for any class of enshrinees, current selection process stipulated that between 4 and 8 new members will be selected.
Well, so here's what doesn't make sense, because their new rule is that each of these guys has to hit. So, like for the modern era guys, they go from 15 finalists down to 7, and then they have a presentation. The committee does on those 7, and then each guy picks 5. They all vote for 5 of the 7, and then of those 5, whoever manages to get 80% or more of the votes, gets in. So that can be 5 guys. It could be so split. It could be 1 or 2 guys technically. So what happens if it's so split that you don't have 4 guys over the 80% threshold? What do? You revote?
I guess why, like, I get they're trying to make it elite and they're trying to keep it selective and elitist. I get that. Like exclusive is important for this, but I do feel like they've almost narrowed it down a little much. They've kind of limited themselves by like 1 extra person, because 3 people only got 80% of the modern era. When you're talking about Luke Kuechly and Adam Vinatieri that you thought should be in, and you've got Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne who have been finalists for 6 years.
Yeah.
Willie Anderson's been a finalist for 4 years, the last 4 years.
There come down years when there's a window for these guys to get in. Like, who was going to be crying crocodile tears last night that Sterling Sharp or Jared Allen didn't get into the Hall of Fame?
Sterling Sharp's a senior, so he's not in this.
That Eric Allen and Jared Allen didn't get in. Who was going to be like, oh, can't believe they didn't get in this year? Nobody. Their families and diehard Vikings fans. Like,
I don't know why you're on big crocodiles today for some reason. So
something about crocodiles.
I just think I feel like they've.
So how many do you want each year? 5, 6?
Yeah, I think like.
I mean, that adds up in a hurry, though. The whole
but there's enough guys. Like there are enough. According to you, there are 2 extra guys that were worthy of being in this group this year that were not. So I think. Last year there were 5. This year there were 3.
I think you're misunderstanding me. I don't think they were too shy. I think they got the wrong 2.
Okay.
I think they were right to induct 3 modern era guys. I think they just picked the wrong 3. And again, you can
I
clearly
don't
tell by their
think
process that they care about guys doing their time on the list, and the committee takes themselves very seriously. And it's like, well, this guy deserves it. We've been talking about him for 7 years, and there's some inertia that builds up. And so that's why the Eric Allen and Jared Allens of the world get in on year 7 and 10 or whatever it is.
I just think there shouldn't be. I don't think there is a Hall of Famer who was wrongly inducted. If you get
You don't think
in,
there's ever been one?
that's wrong. The process is
Arguably.
who?
I mean, well, for starters, I can tell you one that's about to be. Eli Manning is going to
But
get
he's
into the
not.
Hall of Fame.
He's not though.
No, he is going to get into the Hall of
But
Fame.
we don't,
I'm telling you, he's getting into the Hall of Fame.
okay,
People are going to
but he's
argue
not
about it.
right now. I'm saying, like, is there a wrong person inducted to the Hall of Fame?
That's a good question. I will go through.
No, there's not,
It's
because
a good question.
the process is so intense. So, like, it's
But it
Eric
wasn't
Allen.
until this year. They had watered it down the last 15 years, Austin. They were doing 7, 8, 9 person classes. They were shoving guys through like it was like getting people onto the Noah's Ark out here. They were getting them in.
Now, Orlando says Terrell Davis wrongly inducted.
Was that debatable? Maybe it was.
I mean, he had an outlier status of like playing a really short career. It's like Terrell Davis and Gale Sayers, or like flash in the pan. They played like 6 or 7 years. That's it. But they were freaking dominant for all 6 or 7 years, and then we're out with whatever type of things, but injuries or whatever else. So
I mean, like Floyd Little is a Hall of Famer at running back.
You don't know.
I'm just looking at the list here in terms of accolades. Like, I'm not sure what Floyd Little deserved to get in for, but he's not a great player in terms of Hall of Famers. There are not great players that are inducted into the Hall of Fame. Who's the worst quarterback to be inducted? Let's see. Jim Kelly,
who went to 4 straight Super Bowls.
Yeah, and lost them all.
Yeah, but he got there.
Troy Aikman, arguably the worst quarterback in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Len Dawson in the 50s.
Yeah, but you're talking about like completely different football.
Yeah, I mean, Troy Aikman and Tim Kelly, the modern guys, the worst to be in at quarterback. They're sticky at quarterback. Who's the worst receiver? The worst receiver in.
I mean,
Devin Hester, but he's not in as a receiver, right? Yeah. Really, that's Tommy McDonald.
Yeah, but again, like you're not gonna know. I know. League.
I'm trying to find a modern guy. There are receivers
sneaky hard to get in.
Sneaky hard to get in.
Yeah, the 2 guys that have been on the finalist list the longest actively are Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne. Both been on that finalist list for the last 6 years and haven't been able to get through. And Steve Smith just joined the party, and there's just going to continue to be more and more receivers that jump in here because of numbers. All right, let's keep moving forward.
Calvin Johnson was first ballot, right?
Yeah, he was.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
anyway,
for sure. All right. Let's give our official predictions. Super Bowl predictions times. We want who's going to win Super Bowl LIX, or I've been saying internally Splix. I've been saying that. That's how I remember it. Splix. Who's going to win Splix on Sunday? Eagles or Chiefs? Shout out to our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, but our friends at bartdurham.com are available to help you out whenever that happens at all times, 24/7 on their website, bartdurham.com. You can go there for the live chat, the contact features. They've also got blogs and news to help you out with whatever wreck you might be in. They've been helping Nashvillians, Middle Tennesseans, and Tennesseans all around with any type of car accident. They've been in since 1975 when Bart Durham opened the doors for business. Bart Durham passed away in April of last year, but his son, Blair Durham, and Marine vet and legendary Nashvilleian himself, has been carrying the flag and doing phenomenal things across our community behind the scenes, and also helping you out whenever that car accident happens. Your big truck wreck is Bart Durham's Fight for Justice, and they got you right there online at bartdurham.com.
All right, I want to hear everybody's Super Bowl predictions, but in order to send them in the chat, you must first like the show. Help us out here at the end of the show. Hit that like button on Facebook, on YouTube. Hit like, and then hit that comment section and let us know who's going to win this godforsaken rematch between the Eagles and the Chiefs. Austin, do you have a strong take on this? Do you feel confident in your pick?
No, because
okay.
We're an Eagles household, and this is going to be a nervy Sunday, and we're going to get through it. We're working on the menu items to have a Philly flair for that. This is when my superstition kicks in the most. Usually, I am known for hedging emotionally. Sometimes it wins, sometimes it loses, sometimes it wins both. But whenever I lose emotionally, I win financially. That's how the emotional hedge works.
Right.
But with this spread of, I believe the Chiefs are a point to a point and a half favorite, you can't really emotionally hedge that very well. It's basically a pick 'em.
Pick a side, brother.
And so I am
Pick a side.
screwed on that strategy. So like I want the Eagles to win. It would be phenomenal for the Eagles to win.
But who's going to win?
I don't know. Okay. So
the fact that you want the Eagles to win, but you don't know,
because
tells me everything I need to know.
I'm
You
so
think
afraid
the Chiefs
of
are going
the
to
jinx.
win?
No,
You
I'm
think
afraid
they're
of the
going
jinx.
to win?
No, I'm afraid of a jinx because I don't want to put out there in the world that I'm going to bet against the Chiefs because whenever you bet against Patrick Mahomes, you get burned. I don't want to be on record doing that. I just want the game to happen. I was happily betting.
Well, it's going to. So I got good news for you. They're going to play the game on Sunday.
I know.
So when you close in your mind's eye, when you close your eyes at night on your pillow, how does your honest self see Sunday going?
I don't know.
How do you expect it to go?
I don't know.
I know, but do you feel yourself emotionally preparing to deal with a household that's devastated? Do you feel yourself battening down the hatches for bad things to happen, or are you getting excited for the celebration?
I don't allow myself to get excited for the celebration.
Okay.
When we went to Columbus, Ohio, for that playoff game, I was going up there with zero expectations.
Right.
And it allowed me to leave that game, leave the shoe, not mad whatsoever. And so, so for my own sake, I am not preparing myself for a celebration. I'm not preparing myself for anything other than just being there. And so but I also don't want to say nobody has ever won 3 straight Super Bowls. Is it going to happen now? Like people are yelling at me to get off the fence. I'm not going to this time. I'm going because I'm not trying to jinx anything. I'm not trying
King of the fence right now, Austin Stanley.
This is the most superstitious version of myself, and I'm not trying to jinx anything. I'm not trying to jinx anything by picking the Eagles to win and betting against Mahomes, or I don't want to pick against the Eagles either. So I'm just not. I'm trying to be Switzerland in the superstition world. That's my goal right here, is to not put anything out there in the world for the football gods to use against me.
All right. Well,
I think you have to respect my decision here.
That's fine. I respect it. Whatever. Chat, you know what to do. Get those tomatoes out.
That's fine. You
can
throw tomatoes out.
Throw the tomatoes.
I will use them to make my spread better on Sunday.
Okay, fair enough. The Eagles are going in this game. Okay, Eagles are going to win. I know that's. I'm sure you don't. I don't love it either.
Damn it, Easton.
I don't love it either. It's so foolish. I know I'm walking right into it. I'm stepping in it. I am quadrupling down against the Chiefs, but I'm in too deep at this point. There's no turning back. Some people say, well, just bet on the Chiefs, and then eventually you'll either be right or you'll be happy. And there's your emotional hedge, right? But I think I've already been so anti-Chiefs this whole time that if I switch now and I'm finally wrong, or if I switch now and I'm finally right to have been against them, I'm going to feel stupid. So there's no arguing this. The Eagles are the better team at 21 positions, and the Chiefs are the better, and the Chiefs happen to have Michael Jordan at the other position. So that's once again what.
You know what's weird is my brain went to, there are 24 positions in football. What the hell are you talking about?
There are 22.
Well, I mean,
whatever, man.
There's a 20 kickers. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever. Okay.
You're the guy who 30 minutes ago was like, Adam Vinatieri should have been in the Hall of Fame.
Good point. All right, fine. There are 25 positions in football.
Oh, you include the long snapper. I wasn't including the long snapper.
If kickers are humans, then punters and long snappers are humans, aren't they?
They're people, not humans. That's what the phrase is.
Oh, is that what it is?
Punters are people too.
Oh,
Rich Eisen.
I see. It's a house versus a home kind of thing. I see.
Punters, no, it's alliteration. That's what it is.
Major Key says Easton put 1,000 on the money line. I will do no such thing. But the Eagles are going to win. They are the better team they are, and this is what's so boring. Like we've seen this story now for 3 consecutive years. It's the Chiefs, the inferior team with the better quarterback up against the NFC team that happens to be the much better team with the worst quarterback who's going to win out. When these two teams played in Arizona 2 years ago, remember the whole turf situation where the natural grass was a disaster and everybody was slipping around, and people argue that it neutralized the Eagles' best ability, which was to get after Patrick Mahomes, and they were slipping so much the edge rushers couldn't get home.
Yep.
Well, they're playing indoors on artificial turf, so that no argument there this time. I do think that in the trenches, the Eagles are just going to beat them up. And I think that I know that this Chiefs offensive line is worse than it was 2 years ago. I know that this Eagles offensive line is just as good as it was 2 years ago. And I know that this Eagles defensive line is, I don't know, it's probably as good as it was 2 years ago. So I think that it is going to be the same story on a more advantageous surface with a better matchup for the Eagles. And I think what the Chiefs do the best right now are all things that the Eagles are the best at neutralizing. So will Patrick Mahomes probably win in the end at the very end? Sure, whatever. I don't care. Fine, and I'll be sad. But I'll be numb at this point because we're so used to it. But I do think the Eagles win, and I think there's a chance the Eagles win big. And I think that this game overall probably going to be boring because both these teams are possession, long, grinding drive teams. Wouldn't be surprised if it's like the fastest Super Bowl ever, and it takes 2 hours and 5 minutes, and each team gets the ball 7 times. And I think that the commercials are going to maybe be better than the Super Bowl itself.
All right, here's what I'll say. Because Glenn was like, just say you want the Eagles to win and be done with it. I did say that already. But here's what I'm going to say. If the Eagles are going to win this Super Bowl, they have to win by more than 1 touchdown. Because how about this first?
I see.
Quarterbacks in the playoffs in the last 25 years, since 2000, have had 105 opportunities to have the ball down 1 score or less with a minute or less to go in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to recap that. A minute or less on the clock, 1 score or less on the scoreboard, and the quarterback has the ball down. That's happened 105 times in the playoffs in the last 25 years. Normally, everybody in this quarterbacks have scored that on that drive 40% of the time. So 40% of the time, NFL quarterbacks are successful in those situations.
All right.
Patrick Mahomes, however, is 7 for 7 in those situations. He scores actually 100% of the time. So that's just that stat.
Can't stand this guy.
So we do have to get to good news because we got to jump to wrap up this week. So if you got good news in the chat, we'll share it fast. Good news time. Here we go. Shout out to Wilson County Hyundai, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon, online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Shout out to our old friend Grace Remington. She had the Patrick Mahomes stat that I saw earlier in the week. Good news, good news, good news. How about this from Ethan? Good news, Lady Vols finally bit Gino Auriemma in UConn. That was awesome. So shout out to Coach Caldwell.
I didn't even see that. Well done.
Yeah, first time they beat UConn
ever?
2007.
Whew.
Which they've only played 4 times since then because Gino and Pat were anti each other. Gino's fault. Gino's a bad person. Still sticking towards that. Gino's a petty person. Absolutely. Keeping Candace Parker off the women's Olympic team because of pettiness. Absolutely. Gino's a miserable person. He deserves to go down. He did say some nice things about Coach Caldwell after the game, who is her son is now 19 days old after yesterday. So yeah, she had a baby 19 days ago and
That's
just beat
crazy.
UConn. She's a beast. She's awesome.
That's insane.
And first year,
I'm surprised she can see straight, let alone coach a high-level basketball game.
Yeah, could you beat a top 5 team?
Right.
In Gino and UConn.
That's crazy.
Paige, all that. So good news. IR says tomorrow's his birthday. How about that? Jason says happy birthday to IR. Good news. Landed at the airport early. Bad news. Waited on the tarmac for an hour to get the gate open.
Oh, it's the worst.
Tall Tex says good news. Easton doesn't have a Hall of Fame vote.
Yeah, whatever.
Sad news. Football is over after Sunday. Yeah, you're right. Ryan, my bad. Not going to read super chats. Yes, shout out to Ryan super chat. Chiefs. He wants the Chiefs to win. Never want AJ to win. Ruined the Titans franchise.
Did AJ choose to leave, Ryan? How did he ruin it?
He kind of forced himself out, but
not really.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He did the same thing that Deebo Samuel did last year, and he's still a Niner. So
No,
He asked out. He didn't force anything.
Shout out to Brian Scruggs for the non-commented super chat on that one. Easton, what is your good news?
My good news is that a new episode of Severance came out last night, and it was the best episode of the series of all time. If you've not watched Severance, I am imploring you to get Apple TV if you don't. It is worth the subscription to the platform alone to watch Severance. I am not going to try to explain it to you because an explanation does it no justice. Just go to YouTube. On YouTube, you're here right now. After this show is over in a minute, search Severance trailer, season 1. Don't watch season 2 trailer. There's a lot of spoilers in that. Watch season 1's trailer, and you will be very excited and you'll want to watch the show. It is no question the best television show on TV right now. It is maybe one of the best shows ever made. It's still very new, so if you want to get into it, it's not too late. We're on season 2, episode 4 right now in terms of things coming out right now. But my favorite thing about the show, what I will explain, here's the pitch for me. I have never, ever seen a show that gives its audience as much credit as Severance does. They respect your intelligence. They embrace complex themes, and they trust you to figure things out instead of holding your hand through it all. They're happy to drop it's a mystery thriller. So they're happy to drop little difficult little references and foreshadowing and Easter eggs and trust that fans will figure it out as you go. It's like an interactive thing where they're constantly breaking the fourth wall and giving you little tidbits, and the writer's room is actively playing with you as the watcher as you go. And it is peak television, and they're not doing the thing where they drop the whole season so you can binge it. So it's a callback to days of old where it's a week-to-week thing where you watch one episode and then you have a week to think about it and talk about it and tweet about it. It's awesome. Watch Severance. It's so cool.
All right, there you go. My good news, Super Bowl on Sunday. Eagles are in it. It's the third Eagles Super Bowl since my wife and I have been engaged / married. Wow. That's a lot of fortune. It's a lot of Super Bowl fortune.
You can't ask much better than that.
That's pretty crazy. So 3rd in 8 years. Very excited about that. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. All right, that is it for us. Hope you guys have a great Super Bowl weekend, and we will catch you guys on Monday reacting to it all and looking forward to the Titans off-season in full swing. Catch you guys later. Appreciate it as always. Make sure you hit that like button, like the show, subscribe to the channel, 5-star Google review. See you on Monday. Thanks.